And now for something completely different.
Hello everybody. This week's video slightly different to my normal run-of-the-mill garbage, and it revolves around this man here, which to photographers around the world is known as Man Ray. Now, he was actually born Emanuel Radnitsky in 1890, I think, and he died in 1976. But he is most famous for probably one image more than anything else, is the violin d'entrée. I think that's the right pronunciation. I'll put it up on the screen for you to have a look at now. And this is a photograph of a model that he fell in love with. She called herself Kiki, I think, Kiki de Montparnasse or something like that. And the image is violin d'entrée, and it sold in 2022 for over $12 million, which, unless something's happened in the intervening 12 months or so, it makes it the world's most expensive photograph ever sold. But apart from very surreal images like this, he was also very famous for a series of photograms. Now, photograms are a very simple idea. He actually called his version rayographs. So I thought it might be a nice idea to try making my own photograms or my own rayographs. So what I did, and you're probably wondering what this collection of goodies is down here, I've collected a random selection of items from the house, including a biro, a set of measuring cups for cooking, the top of an aftershave bottle. What else have we got here? Oh yeah, earphones from a mobile phone. I think I used a USB cable as well. The top off some sort of plastic container. Don't ask me what it came off, but it's there. And a kitchen sieve. And with this selection of random, very random items, I decided to have a go at making my own photogram or rayograph. Now, you can choose any items that you like. They can be sort of dead leaves, dead insects, anything really that takes your fancy. So it doesn't have to be very small. You don't need anything like a macro lens for doing this. You can do it with practically any modern camera. The trick is to have a think beforehand of the kind of objects that don't necessarily go together in any sort of logical way, and try and bring them together into one image. So the way that I did it anyway, and this is done using digital camera, the same sort of thing can be done using film cameras, but it's obviously much more laborious and time-consuming and expensive. The best way to approach it is to photograph each object separately and then to recombine them in whatever editing software that you prefer, because all the editing software packages that I can think of will allow you to do this procedure. Rather than me chop and change and put a small image of me in the corner of the screen, I'm just going to put random images over the top as an overlay to give you an idea of the process involved. It's not difficult. The hardest part is actually working out what objects to put together in what sort of arrangement. Anyway, photograph each one separately. You can do it using existing available light. find yourself a nice big window and just make use of the daylight flooding in through that. Or you can use flash, you can use LED lighting, whatever you want. It doesn't make any difference. Now, Man Ray discovered his photograms, his rayographs, by accident. He actually exposed a piece of photographic paper when it was in the developer, and it had an object on top of it. So the part of the photographic paper that had been exposed to light when he turned the white light on in his darkroom, that all went black. The part that was covered by the object stayed white, or more or less white anyway. And that's what gave him the inspiration to experiment more and more with different objects. So basically what we're trying to do is to produce a black background, or certainly a very dark background, with negative images of the items that you choose to photograph. So we take a photograph of the sieve, a photograph of the measuring cups, photograph of the pen, photograph of the top of the aftershave bottle, etc. Photograph them all individually, crop them, get them to a state that you are happy with. You don't have to convert them to black and white at this stage. In fact, if you wanted to, as I'll demonstrate later, you can leave this whole thing as a colour image if you wish. But basically, we bring them into our chosen photo editing software, crop them, make them as contrasty as you wish. Most of Man Ray's photograms were very, very high contrast, no detail at all. So make them contrasty, and then the trick is to flip them, invert them, so that you are making a negative image. And it's very straightforward. In Affinity Photo, for example, once you've converted them, if you're shooting in RAW, you'll need to convert them to a JPEG. And then once they are in JPEG format, you can invert them so that they become a negative image. Okay, so your background becomes black or very, very dark, and the image itself is more or less pure white. Do that. So you've got a selection of maybe 4 or 5 different images in negative format, which you can now bring into a new document, a new canvas. And all I did was to select a canvas. I think I chose 16:9 format anyways, because I knew I'd be videoing this. 16:9 format, something like 300 dpi, and then open up each separate image and copy and paste them onto your new black background. Now, the trickiest part of doing this is actually, if you like, cutting out the individual subject items that you have chosen. Now, if it's a hard-edged item like the top of the aftershave bottle, you can use your selection tool very, very easily and very quickly to just trace around the outside, cut it out. You could make a duplicate copy of that image as a PNG with a clear background, and then you can just cut and paste that straight onto your new black background. If you're dealing with an object which is much trickier, like, for example, apologies for the noise, but like, for example, the earphone lead, then selecting that is trickier. It's not impossible, but you might decide that the easiest solution would be to cut around the outside of it, which means that you are going to have shadow areas left in the little pieces inside. And instead of saving it as a PNG, you could save it again as a JPEG file, and that will then preserve the shadows that you've got in the interior parts around the wire, if you're following me. God, this sounds complicated, but it really isn't. So you can do that, and then the shadows will turn out on the final image. And the same with sort of semi-transparent objects like this plastic container top. A little bit tricky to trace around it, but you can easily use your erase tool with an item like that. And the same thing goes with a pen. Nice straight hard edges, very easy to make a selection of that. A little bit trickier with regard to the set of measuring cups. So what I did here was to preserve the shadows inside and just cut around the outside of the largest measuring cup. And the sieve, the same thing. And then once you have got your negative images and you transfer them over onto the new black background, you've got 5 or 6 layers, and this is where the fun starts, because now you can begin to arrange them in a way that you feel is most attractive, what makes the nicest composition. And you'll see in the selection that I've put together my take on the images that I chose. It's going to vary greatly depending on what you can find to photograph. The reason that I've put this little video together is to demonstrate that it's the kind of project you can have a go at when the weather is against you, when you're feeling under the weather, whatever it might be, something that stops you going out and about. You can do this from the comfort of your own home. Have a lot of fun as well in getting to grips with your photo editing software, whether it be Photoshop or On1 or Affinity, any of them. It will help you to improve your editing skills. And at the end of the day, you're going to end up with something completely different. Probably something that you've never tried to do before. At least that's what I'm hoping. I'm emulating one of the most famous photographers in the world, but I'm emulating him for a specific purpose. It's just to try and show you that you can have fun with your photography, you can enjoy your photography without even leaving the comfort of your own home. Have a go. Let's see some results. I hope you like some of my attempts anyway. They won't be anything like as good as this man's was back in the 1920s and 30s. But for now, enjoy your photography, have a go at this, and I'll see you all very soon for yet another weird and wonderful video. Bye for now.